We're here today in Shadwell, East London, with the safety response team. What they're doing today is they're going to be doing a sweeping. Officers are here, the rapid response team is here from the local authorities. From the neighbourhood there's also residents, as well as Councillor Rabina Khan's here, amongst others. Everyone, the officers are here, there's plainclothes officers here. What this means is they'll be looking for sharp objects, maybe youngsters, especially related to youngsters who won't be able to take clear liquids in bottles or sharp objects as knives. So they might be hiding them in the bushes. So this is a plan that the safety response team, the lead of the safety response team, has acquired to do. So let's see what happens.
Well, the good thing is, it's very quick thing for them to the spirit of what it is we're going to do. So, thanks so much for attending. What we're going to do is going to be weapons sweeps around 5 areas. So all the small communal areas are surrounding this block, and then Shadwell Garden, which is a little bit larger. I don't want to teach anyone the obvious, I really don't. Obviously it's a safety briefing. What we're going to be searching for is sharp implements concealed in bushes. By their very nature, they are going to be hard to see just by walking around, I would imagine. Also we're going to look for bottles of clear liquid as well, which may contain substances which aren't just normal drinking water and squash and so on and so forth. So that's very important as well. We'll give you gloves so we can go through these areas. What I suggest is that we keep as logical as we can do about searching. So what we'll do is we'll put a group of you, there's one officer each, and we can go through the areas in sections.
Well, I think the drugs they take quite quick.
It looks like something's been found by one of the officers. We're just going to, I'll go and ask her, well, what's actually happening so we can get a bit more information. Okay, right. There's a... Okay, let's see what this officer has to say.
Obviously, this automatically is something that we didn't expect to find because we're focused on knives and liquids and so on and so forth. But you know, this is an area where kids are going to be playing. You know, these are needles potentially. We're not going to open it; it's too dangerous to. But needles from a needle exchange. You know, so as well as sharp implements, there's a danger of all sorts of diseases on these implements. So they're going to be bagged up. But that's the benefit of doing a search like this: is you'll find other things which ordinarily you wouldn't expect to find, and that's only a positive thing for young children who are using this. So just to show you that a secondary message being that, you know, when you're going through these bushes, make sure that you can see where your fingers are reaching out to. Okay, because on this occasion it's sealed up and it seems to be fairly secure, but okay, but this will be taken back to the police station and forensic aid. Okay, lovely. Cheers.
Okay, I'm just going to ask the officer what he actually found. Officer, what did you actually, I saw you found something.
I'll go and pick them up.
Okay, great.
If I can find them.
And if you can explain what it actually is.
So that is the wrapping of a Class A drug, basically. The plastic bags from a shop are used to wrap up drugs, so the dealers will put them in, wrap it up like that, and you'll have one small amount, very small amount, to deal to a customer. And obviously once they're bought and used, they're just chucked away. So you'll see these all over the borough where Class A use is very prevalent, and that signifies where Class A users just use their drugs and dispose of it, basically. And unfortunately all the knife crime is usually linked to drugs, so that's why you'll see so much of it around.
Thank you. So there's something maybe to look at for residents can also look at, maybe, you know,
If they see a lot of
report.
if they see a lot of these about, it means that Class A drugs are being used because no one else wraps up plastic bags like that and just chucks them in the street. So yeah, if you see that in your stairwells, it's obviously often a sign that people are using Class A drugs in the stairwells, which obviously isn't nice for people who have to live in there.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Looks like even one of the ladies have found someone's ID. So even thefts and robbing that's happened. Everything's been disposed of in these bushes. Obviously, no one really, you know, residents, no one really comes and looks in the bushes for anything. But this is a good initiative, definitely by the local authorities, the youth team, the officers, the rapid response team, to look in the. It's important because a lot can be revealed and identified, even possibly identify people, youth who are using. Let's see. Let's go around and have a look.
So we know that it's sort of quite common amongst local drug dealers to use betting shops to launder their money. So what they'll do is they'll make money from drug dealing, and then they'll go into a sort of betting shop and they'll sort of use these, and they will basically gamble it. Even if they end up losing quite a lot of it, they've then got a receipt which makes the money look legitimate. And occasionally as well, they use these betting slips. They'll write down their number and they'll use them as sort of cheap business cards as well. So whenever we find these, we tend to get a bit suspicious.
So this shows that there's a lot of drug-related crimes and usage going on in this specific area.
It suggests that to me, yeah. That's also partly because I'm a local officer and I know that we have a lot of reports of drug dealing around here. But yeah, certainly this would seem to support that.
Do you have any existing young people or groups that you already have under surveillance that you think, you know, are around the area doing this kind of dealing?
We don't have anyone under surveillance. That would be sort of specialist teams that would do that. We'd need to apply to the court to get the authority to do that. But there are certainly individuals and groups that we are aware of. And yeah, as a safer neighbourhood team, we've got a sort of plan about how we're going to tackle that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, I'm here with Inspector Crystal. You've seen all the search that's been and the sweeping. He actually did the briefing earlier. So I'm going to hand it over to him so you can hear why and what he does.
Thanks very much. I'm responsible for gangs and knife-enabled violence within Tower Hamlets, and our response, the police's response to it on an operational level. And for me, weapon sweeps such as this are very important, not only because they find knives, which is what the majority of the communities, I'm sure, really want us to do, is to find knives, take them away from these areas, places where kids are going to be playing, places where you want to enjoy yourselves as residents in the local area. But also for me, it's about the community, the local authority and the police coming together, searching in a methodical way, in a slow and methodical way through these areas, covering as many of these areas of concealment as we can, and basically working together for a common cause, which is to take knives off of the streets of London.
Is it only, do you cover whole of Tower Hamlets?
We do, yes. We cover the borough of Tower Hamlets, which in itself is quite a large area. But there are a number of different areas that we can identify as being areas where knives can be concealed, purely because common sense dictates that there's a lot of shrubbery around and you would conceal a knife here if you had occasion to do so. For me, it's about reacting to local concerns as well. So obviously, if a resident has a concern about knives being concealed in a certain area, please let the police know on 101. It will get flagged to us, we will find out, and we will put resources in to make sure that we sweep that area as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. So this is a cracker. It's basically used to open canisters of nitrous oxide, which is known as laughing gas. The small silver canisters. It isn't currently illegal to use nitrous oxide, although it is illegal to supply it. recklessly. So if you don't believe someone has a legitimate purpose for using it, such as sort of cooking or whatever, you're not allowed to sell it to them. We do find nitrous oxide canisters quite a lot around Tower Hamlets. It is a real big problem.
Silver things in the street.
Yeah, and we find crackers like this as well.
Can we see the...
There it is.
To be fair, Kate, I've had so many people complaining about this, and I've heard some youngsters where they've actually passed out.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big issue now in Tower Hamlets, because my fear is that they'll start using this at about 12, 9, age of 9 I've seen them do it as well, and then they'll move on to a bit harder stuff and then a bit harder stuff, and that's what scares me, and I think that scares schools, it scares communities, it scares parents, families, and the only way to do it is to do the prevention work and just build up awareness amongst them.
Yeah, in Tower Hamlets, there's currently a programme that I believe the antisocial behaviour team and the schools officers have put together. It's an education programme, essentially just letting young people know about the dangers of nitrous oxide. As well as a safe neighbourhood team, we're currently doing quite a lot to try and reduce its use. When we do come across young people using it, it will be confiscated and a sort of report will be put on. Again, it's not a crime, but we've got systems to record where we have concerns about children and the things that they're getting up to. As a final thing, we've recently had an operation where we have conducted licensing checks on shops that we believe to be supplying nitrous oxide. There was actually one where we found these for sale and nitrous oxide canisters for sale as well. And we are pursuing a charge for possession with intent to supply nitrous oxide recklessly under the Psychoactive Substances Act.
Excellent. I mean, these regulations, if people are aware of it, they'll be very careful as to what they're doing. The selling and the trading standards could also look into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, great, good information.
So that's the first one out of the way. Any comments on that? It's a bit difficult, more difficult than it looks, isn't it, really, to be fair? Given it's just quite a small area, it's very difficult, isn't it, to maintain some sort of organisation in the way that you move through even a small area to search it. So, in essence, what we tend to find, just having a little sneaky look over everyone as they were doing it, we find people duplicating searches, which is never a bad thing, because I'd rather duplicate searches than leave anything left unsearched. But we saw the needles, which are in that sealed container, and thank heavens they are in that sealed container on this occasion, because just bear in mind when you go through the bushes and the undergrowth that you're potentially finding all sorts, and not just sharp implements or bottles or things that we really do think of straight away. So that's all I'd say. So we'll move on to the second one, just down the way past this block, and then we'll move down sort of quite consecutively till we get to Shadwell Gardens, okay? So I'll see you all in about 5 minutes. Yep. Lovely, thank you.
I have Michaela French here. She's antisocial behaviour officer. I'm going to be asking her about her experience and what's happening here today as well. Hi, Michaela.
Hi, thank you. What can I tell you? We're looking for weapons, we're looking for drugs. You know, we have got tenants that are terrified of the antisocial behaviour that's on a criminal level. We have gangs that are using knives against each other, and the issues are actually to do with drugs. Our tenants are terrified. The object of today is to take any weapons that we may find in the bushes, because they are places where they do hide them, so when they come out at night time they're able to get these weapons should anybody come on their turf. We are not tolerating this anymore. We're going to do everything within our power in the partnership and combat these issues and deal with these individuals before anybody actually gets hurt, and start making our residents feel safe in their homes in Tower Hamlets.
Is this part of the community safety plan that's was put in place a few years ago?
It is part of that, yes. It's about getting the agencies together. Because we cannot do this individually on our own. We need our residents and we need all of our partners, and that is the only way of combating these issues. You know, we will do everything we can to make the residents feel safe. We just want the residents to feel safe, communicate with us. You know, we try and do things on our own, but we really need the residents to communicate. I know they're scared and I really do understand that, but they can remain anonymous, they really can. We would never give their identities to anybody. But we need to combat these issues. We need to deal with it. Otherwise, it'll end up being a war zone if we don't.
There's just one other question, well, a thought that's come up. I know it's to do with young people as well. So how have you, what initiative have you sort of worked with young people? Because I know they have this negative image of ASB officers or police officers. How do you tackle that? And it's very defensive, very confrontational.
Yes, do you know what? It is confrontational, but when you go and speak to the young ones, don't go and speak to them with that high authority. You need to be speaking on their level. You need to be treating them like a human being. The worst thing you can do is come from an enforcement angle. You know, when you're just trying to engage, that is a part they do not respect at all. If you talk to them properly, like a human being, not like an idiot, that they want that engagement. There's some that will take that engagement with us. Now, you know, they don't always take it well from us, so we'll tend to then use other services to try and engage with them, and then because they're not enforcement, they're able then to relate to that other service. They are young, and I feel sorry for them. I really do feel sorry for them, the issues that they're facing, the groups that they're in, the pressure that they're on. You know, we want to help them. I mean, I've managed to turn a couple around, but this particular area, Shadwell, it's really going to take a lot of partnership work, and it's going to take quite some time to put it right in this area. But today is a start. It's a start going forward, and for those that are listening to it, and even those people that may be involved in the issues here, if you want to come forward and come and speak to us that you're involved in a group that you don't want to be in, we'll be sympathetic. We will direct them to correct services. We'll try and safeguard them as best as we can, divert them out of it. That's what we want to do. So,
thank you, Michaela. I think that's a great message to get them involved and to actually not feel afraid to come forward and not hesitate. The young, especially the youth.
Yeah. We're using actually Streets of Growth as well at the moment. They're engaged with the group. I think it's 17 to 24. We've sort of roughly got that group age here. So once we sort of identify, we'll then do the referrals to that agency. That agency can get them into colleges, help with the applications, work experience, and try and sort of get them off that track. But they come at it at an angle to really help, support, and then they'll highlight any issues to us of any other support mechanism, maybe to do with their housing, whichever. And that's our way of going forward in supporting them.
Thank you, Michaela. Thank you very much. I have Chief Inspector Kirby with him. I'm going to get him to say a few words what is happening today. Hi, Chief Inspector.
Hello. How are you? Hello.
Fine, thank you.
Good, good. So today is effectively what we're doing is something called a weapon sweep, but we are, unlike most weapon sweeps we do, we're involving members of the community, some of the local politicians as well. So weapon sweeps are about searching areas where we think people might have hidden weapons or contraband or illegal items. So it might be drugs, could be knives, it could be bats and sticks and things like that. And we know that actually this tactic that particularly gang members or those involved in violent crime are resorting to more frequently. We know they're resorting to that tactic because they are concerned about being stopped and searched and being found in possession of items. So actually if they live somewhere near here and they stash weapons in bushes or in park areas like the areas that we've been searching today, then they know where they are. They reduce the risk of being caught with a weapon, and actually they've got ready access to those weapons if they need them in the event of some sort of fight or some incident that they want to get involved in.
So does this all contribute from your level? Is there a plan that you contribute to, you know, when you have on that level as a community safety plan? What other way forward is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just one of a number of different tactics. So I've mentioned stop and search already. So stop and search is about taking intelligence that we receive largely from the community, following up on that intelligence and targeting particular areas where we've got problems with violence or gangs and sending our officers into those areas to conduct stop and search. So where we stop people and where we've got grounds, we'll search those people for weapons or drugs. And obviously you've got the weapon sweep bit that we're talking about or that we've been conducting today. We've got plainclothes officers as well that we deploy into areas that we know to be hotspots, and they are on the lookout for people who might be up to no good, who we might want to stop and search as well. But there's more to it than just the proactive side and the enforcement and the police side. So you mentioned the Community Safety Partnership. We had a meeting just yesterday by coincidence of some of our key partners where we talked about our plan to reduce knife crime. We know that not all knife crime on the borough, far from it, not all knife crime on the borough is related to gangs. Some of it is, and we have a separate plan around dealing with gangs, targeting prolific gang members, for additional enforcement activity, reaching out to them to try and divert them away from their life of crime or their life of that they've chosen around gangs. And if they don't want to do that, then we've got a range of different measures that we can apply with partners to take enforcement action against them. So be that enforcing or undertaking search warrants in relation to their addresses, taking tenancy enforcement with some of our partners from housing associations to evict them from properties. We've got civil injunctions and things of that nature that we can apply to courts for to restrict people's behaviour, movements and associations. So there's lots and lots of different things that we are doing as a partnership to tackle this, but what's really important is that we get the cooperation of the community as well. So all of our activity is largely based on information that we get from the community, from the public, from the residents of estates like this, and it's really important that they have the confidence to come out and to report things to us. And one of the reasons we're doing this today is to sort of show that we are active around this and to reassure people that we are taking action based on the messaging and the information that they're giving us, to again sort of further reinforce that message of confidence so they feel more able to come and tell us about things that are concerning them.
You've mentioned knife crimes. I know knife crimes have gone up. Statistics have said, especially in London as well, most recently. Not only along with the knife crimes, the recent with the acid attacks as well. How can you community, I mean everyone in the community is scared. How can you give some reassurance what's happening, how you're dealing with it as well as with the knife crimes and hate crimes?
Okay. So it's really important. So the acid attacks, I think it's good that that's come up actually. So it's really important that we talk about those in a really open way. So I'm aware that recently there's been lots of community concern around acid attacks, and there have been various links made to acid attacks and hate crime. So there was an incident fairly recently in the last 3 or 4 weeks or so in Newham, which certainly has some hallmarks of a hate crime type offence, and that is one of the avenues that's been explored by the investigators over in Newham. But actually the recent incidents that we've seen on this borough, there is nothing to indicate that any of those incidents are in any way motivated by racial or religious hatred, but I'm aware that message seems to have got out into the community. So one of the things that we need to do is reassure our communities that whilst those incidents are really terrible, really serious, that underlying concern around hate crime, we're not seeing any indications that is what is motivating these offences. Often these offences that we've seen, these acid attack type offences that we've seen, are in relation to feuds between members of the criminal fraternity, not all of them, but some of them, and others will be motivated by sort of acquisitive crime, so people looking to rob individuals of property. So just to reassure everybody that actually we are not seeing any indication that these recent acid attacks are in any way motivated by hate crime.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Chief Inspector. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right then, so just pay extra attention to where the ledge is. Again, you won't be able to see the knife there, so just sort of easily, so make sure you look over rather than sort of like feeling for it, because even with gloves, if it's a blade, it's still going to hurt you.
Last one, okay?
As you can see, I have Rabina Khan here, Councillor Khan. This is her area, Shadwell. She is the person who actually has organised this whole response with the different teams and with people from the neighbourhood community. I'm just going to ask her a few questions. Hello, Councillor Khan.
Hello, hi. Thank you for coming here today, and also thank you to the team who agreed to do this with us. And this is about residents, the police, the rapid response team, all of us working together in Shadwell to make sure that we can find knives, weapons, and are also now adding to that corrosive substance which has been on the increase regarding the acid attacks. My work is to keep my residents safe in Shadwell Garden, to work with them. So I often work with a number of the TRAs, and I know we had a TRA meeting here in Shadwell Gardens, but I like to move things along a little bit faster because I have a lot of vulnerable people who come to see me, many older residents, and a lot of mothers who come to see me because they're frightened for themselves, their daughters, their children as well. And so we've done this, we've got the team together as well. And the Faith Police Officer, I have to say, Shay, who's employed by the police, He's excellent trying to build the bridges together, and Chris, who's from the CID, who's really put this together, brought all the teams together. We've got different police officers, we've got our ward S&T officers as well, and they are so good, Kate and David, and we've done the other side, which was Newton House, Richard Neal and Maddox around the Chapman area. We're doing Shadwell Gardens. We will also be doing a number of the other estates as well. And the key thing is that as councillors, you have to go out and do the actual legwork. You've got to bring people together. We've got to work together, and that's the key thing to it as well. And my job is to do that, to bring people together and to build trust between the agencies, in particular the police. The police are there not to work against us, but to work with us. They are there to keep us safe, and we have to work with them.
I just wanted to also ask you, I mean, this is really great, a good, really good initiative, I have to say, even as a resident of Tower Hamlets myself, as well as viewers who've seen, it's a really good initiative and taken by yourself. Will you be actually talking to other councillors? Because it's important that even in the other lap areas, as well as this area, will you be actually pushing this? I mean, this is great. If you could, your voice, you know, you put your voice out there and get all the other councillors involved. And I think it's great what you've actually done today and started off. Will you be doing that? Will you be calling a meeting with the rest of the councillors in Tower Hamlets, actually saying what you've done, you know, getting all the teams that you've, the rapid response team, the youth offending team, you know, as well as all the officers that have come here, chief inspectors and everybody. Will you actually be, can you hold a meeting? Can you do something like that so the rest of all the councillors take note?
Well, actually, I don't think calling a meeting with all the councillors, that's not what we should be doing continuously, just calling meetings. We actually have to follow through every time we have a meeting. So when we had the meeting at the Shadwell TRA, I had a meeting with the Tarling West TRA. My job is now to put things in action. And yes, it's taken a bit of time putting the team together, working together. We found the time which was available for all people, and we came out and did it. Me calling the other councillors to a meeting is not worth it. I think that my colleagues across the political persuasions, I believe they have been elected because truly in their hearts, they actually, all of them, deserve to be here. They want to work, and I think by just seeing this will be an example for them. I brought my councillor colleague, Councillor Sharlom, here as well, so he could get an understanding of what he can do. I'm happy to support people as well. I think this is something that all councillors can do, and to be fair to all councillors in Tower Hamlets, I'm pretty sure that they would want to do this. I don't need to call a meeting. I think they'll know that really and truly, if they care about their residents, they will do this as well. And I'm happy to share my experiences as well. I'm hoping that we can empower communities, we can empower residents to do this, because I could be here today. I mean, I'm here today, might not be here next year when the election's here. We don't know what the political platform will be like, but our job is to give the tools so that people have the access to be empowered to call these kinds of meetings and to do it together.
Thank you. I think it's again, it's a great initiative. Thank you, Councillor Khan.
I hope everybody, and in particular the corrosion substance, I think this is now on the next agenda of looking for things like this.
It's really worrying. I did ask the Chief Inspector, I did mention, it is worrying because everybody's scared. It doesn't matter how confident, how empowered you feel. You know, everybody from young and old, child, everybody's feeling afraid. Can you just say something just to reassure everybody, maybe just a few words?
I think the most important thing is that for acid attacks, we've got to change the legislation around there. I think for the police also are in difficulties because with a knife crime the legislation is slightly different. With an acid attack it's seen as GBH. We've got to look at that very, very carefully, and we also have to understand that acid attack actually is an attack on identity, because the very particular surgeon who treats Katie Piper for her attack, he said part of this crime is to an attack on that person's identity, because they are life-changing injuries. You will never get these damages back, and the repercussions and the emotional and psychological effects on people is so damaging. And the only way we can do this is what we've just done here today. We just come together and we have to show, no, this is not a place for acid attacks, knife crime, gun crime. We're here together as parents, older people, elected members, faith communities. We're here together, and we will be here together for a very long time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Khan.
Thank you.
bank card found open in a flower bed comes back to a victim of a murder or stabbing. And that's a line of inquiry that our specialist units essentially really wanting us to be preserving residents. So they're going into separate evidence bags and they'll be checked the details when they get back to the police station. Found a knife down there, but ordinarily they can come back to fence.
Right, actually an officer has actually found something. I mean, this is really, as well as being scary, you know, I'm going to hand it off to the officer just to say how she's feeling and what's just happened. Hello, officer.
Hello, hi. Yeah, obviously during this operation we're looking for all sorts of weapons, and finding a knife is quite overwhelming. We are the officers that obviously patrol this area on a regular basis, and well, it's a small knife which we happen to find today at this moment, but we tend to find bigger knives than this.
What would you say to a resident who, if they actually come across it, do they touch it? Do they pick it up? What would you say? What procedure should they do, or call yourselves? Call the police?
Report it to us straight away, and obviously if they see a caretaker, also obviously make them aware of it, and obviously make it safe straight away. So then this can be handed in to us.
Okay.
Always report it to us.
Thank you, officer.
For the residents, make sure that you know, it's dependent on where they find that knife. So if it's a dark alleyway, for example, such as this, and they're unsafe, and they feel unsafe with waiting there and calling the police and waiting for the police to recover it, there is nothing to say that they can't wrap it in a piece of paper, okay, and take it into their home address if they feel safer doing it, and then give the police obviously their address, and then we'll come around and we'll pick that up and take that away.
Thank you for that information, officer. Thank you.
Wife had to come home, a couple of governors and I thought maybe we could package it together if you wanted to.
Looks like we've officers found some Class A drugs wrapped up in some plastic. Okay, let's see. Let's go and see what's happening. What's just happened here? What have you found?
Concerned residents come forward. He's found a small wrap. It's highly likely it's Class A drugs, just due to the way that it's been packaged. It's a well-known method of packaging drugs. What we'll do invariably is we'll take that back to the police station and we'll dispose of it, which means that other people aren't getting access to it. As I say, with budget constraints, we have to be mindful of how much forensic work we can put into every item we find. That said, we can do intel checks, we can make police and residents aware of obviously this find in the local area, so everyone's now starting to look and making it harder for obviously addicts and dealers alike to come into an area and do drug activity. So that's really positive as well.
So did the resident say where he actually found it, on the ground or in the bush?
According to the resident who came forward, it was down this way here. So obviously that will mean that our directed patrols can come into this area anyway, because obviously people won't appreciate any sort of streets or boundaries when they're looking to hide out and take drugs or deal drugs. So when someone finds something in an area that small, we're going to cover a wider area to make sure we catch it.
I think that's really good, because then actually a resident has come up seeing, so they've felt confident enough to actually, not just throw it away.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that the police and the communities are working together. We've got to make the communities aware, but as well as the police problem, knife crime, it's very much their problem as well. And we all want the same thing. We all want knives taken off the streets. We don't want our young people carrying knives, being victims of knife crime. That's really important to me, that we both come together, and as many people that can make a stand against knife crime, the better, because it means those who carry knives have to fight the masses, and that's a very good dynamic to be in.
Thank you. I mean, that's really good.
Frequently used as weapons, so it's these type of finds that when we do come across them, we'll take them anyway.
So it could have been left by youth maybe, or people just in the bush maybe, as a possibility.
There's a possibility that it could be just dumped by someone, fly tipped, or it could be a possibility that it's been found and placed there deliberately by someone for use, because obviously if you're walking down the street with a baseball bat, you're going to stand out, but if you've got something that's as innocent as a piece of scaffolding, and if you're dressed in a certain way, people wouldn't look twice at you. So it's that these are the things that we are aware of, and we try to, even if they are innocent, we'll take them off the streets anyway, just because there's always that possibility that they could be used.
Yes, I suppose sweeps like this always, even if it's something new that wasn't found before, it's always good to have that on a list of things.
Gathering intelligence, because what you've done today, what we've all done is gathered intelligence to be able to work with the police in the future as well. You and I were talking, David, about gathering that intelligence and making sure that residents come forward. And the resident who came forward just now about what she found, she didn't know what it was, but it was enough, the trust was there to come forward and say it.
And I think that's really, and seeing yourselves out here and seeing teams out here, I think that gives a bit more, it gives confidence, it gives, the confidence for residents to come out and to, just to report something even. But thank you.
Thank you.
Needles out of communal areas where kids can play and people enjoy themselves, that's a positive thing. We found bank cards and other ID. Now those bank cards and IDs, they may well be simple theft offences that we're just locating victims for, but potentially for me, being a detective, they could be victims of a stabbing where the suspect has taken that property and dumped it in the first convenient location. We're duty bound to take that back to the police station, do a check on it, establish if we can find the details of how that card was lost, because that might be the only line of inquiry that a murder team has to find a suspect through DNA, fingerprints and other forensic opportunities. So for me that's really important as well. So although it's not as sexy as finding a knife, admittedly, we still have to give them as much credence as we do the knives and the other implements we're here to find today. So we'll move on to Shadwell Gardens. Lovely, thank you.
Okay, we've just come over from Shadwell Gardens. We're in Solander Gardens now, just across the road from Shadwell Gardens. And another sweep will be taken over, done here as well by the team. There's also a playground here, so the surrounding areas, as you can see, there's a lot of children that will be playing, so more of a concern as well.
On this one, if you just make a visual look, and then what we'll do is let the officers put their hands in. Yeah, I don't want to put anyone in harm's way by
It looks like another needle container or something. I'll see. Where did you actually find this?
No, we're not
going to open.
Where was this actually found? Which part of the bush?
Gardens just behind here. So there are a lot of drug users there, and it's known. So I often have to walk up and down and phone the police or do something about it. But I know, Kate, you know this area as well very well. So
we do have a lot of problems with Class A drug use in St George's Gardens. It's always something that we look out for and we patrol. When it comes to the drug users in this park, we sort of try and have a two-pronged approach. We are here to help people as well as enforce the law. A lot of them are homeless and have really long-standing issues. So where possible, we refer them to services that can help them reduce and manage their drug use and sort of potentially help them get housing and that kind of thing. But we are also here to make life better for the local residents. If we suspect someone has just picked up drugs, we will search someone if we believe that we've got grounds under Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act. We will potentially always be on the lookout for other offences as well. So it's very common for people with drug addictions to steal things, for example. So once we've sort of know someone's face, once we know someone is causing antisocial behaviour that's drug fuelled, we'll generally keep an eye out for them on our patrols, that kind of thing. Yeah, we do sweep this park every so often, not as frequently as Shadwell Gardens because it's not usually weapons we find here, it's usually needles. But yeah, it's not particularly pleasant. There are a lot of issues in this park here.
It's not pleasant because obviously there's a school here as well and children about.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the complaints we get from residents are from parents who say, well, I'm looking after my children in the playground, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable to know that there are Class A drug addicts who are sort of quite clearly looking for somewhere discreet to use their drugs. And we also get people selling their drugs here. We always ask that people send in as detailed descriptions of the dealers particularly as possible, because often what will happen is they will get descriptions of the dealers and it will be very vague. It will be 4 males, Asian, wearing shoulder bags, between 16 and 25, and actually that describes probably about 30% of the Shadwell residents. We can't really go and search people on the back of that. So we ask, note down particular times they're there, if you've seen them before, note down as much specifically about their appearance and their clothing as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. I have 2 officers here, part of this sweep, 2 officers from the Rapid Response Team. I'm just going to ask them a few words. Why have they been involved? Hello.
Hello. We've been involved today because we work in partnership as a council team, and we're working within the Community Safety Partnership to reduce crime and violence that affects young people and our residents.
Yeah, as you know, knife crime in Tower Hamlets is second in the whole of London, and we're just, as my colleague, my manager, she said, we're working in partnership with the police to show our support, and that's I think it's a good exercise for us to do.
Will you be being involved in more of this kind of sweeps around the borough?
I should hope so. I think it's a good initiative. I think we will definitely support the police officers in this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here with Nick Spencer-Lee. He's here from Tower Hamlets Homes. Hi, Nick.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Great. Okay, so antisocial behaviour, as you've seen, you've been to a number of our properties this morning doing this sweep with the police and our partners from the council. We're dealing with people's homes, we're dealing with people's lives. These things are impacting on them on a day-to-day basis, and it's really important that us as a landlord, Tower Hamlets Homes, works with our partners, the police and the council, to tackle these things that should not be happening in your home and around your home. As you can see, we found stuff around our estates. We've also found stuff in the park as well. So ASB crosses borders, and it's really important that that partnership working is there, so that we're all in this together. It's a priority for the Mayor, it's a priority for Tower Hamlets Homes, it's a priority for the borough, and it's really important that we work together to actually tackle the causes, but also have the enforcement side of things as well. So we actually take strong action against the perpetrators as well.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Thank you for that information.
It's really helpful to see everyone sort of coming together to look for weapons. And just to recap, we found obviously the 2 boxes of needles laying around. Obviously, we've got a playground right there, and we found them in close proximity to that. That's unacceptable in my opinion. Regardless of obviously your views on drug use, that they should be away, furthest away that they could possibly be from a child's playground, in my opinion. We found a knife, so well done to PCSO who found a knife. It's good searching. And one other resident, gentleman here, found those bags, and obviously we're spotting things that I couldn't see, so that's positive as well. So there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of scope to start doing these more regularly with a lot more people, so that's really positive. So thank you very much for your time. It will be on our little hall of knives, scaffolding poles, cards, identification cards will be on Twitter, so MPS Tower Ham, so please feel free to look at that. I know London Bangor 24 will obviously do a piece on it as well, so please feel free to have a look at what we seized today, obviously in its entirety, once we lay it on the ground and take a picture of it. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you as
Lovely,
well.
no, thank
Thank
you
you for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Shadwell, thank you very much.
Good, thank you very much. Cheers, thank you.
Thank you. Right, what we've seen here today has been a real insight. There's been, because of this sweep that the team, combined team have done, it's been an eye-opener. There's a lot of things that have been found, knives, needles, drugs, even a resident has come up and handed over to the police. I hope it's given you an insight, some of the work that possibly could be going on in the borough and other boroughs. Till next time, thank you.